right, welcome. Let's see. I'm gonna. Okay, hello, welcome everybody. I hope you're able to make the jump. I know it's going to take a bit. Woo, Julia. Hey, can you hear me? If you can hear me. Oh, yay. Okay, good. We did it then. Okay, so I think people are going to be coming. Hey, Mike. It's good to see you. Thank you for coming in. I think you guys are going to hear me now. I don't know what happened. I guess the motto of that story is don't get fancy, at least not yet. So, welcome. Okay, we'll get it going here. I guess it's a Sunday, right? And like, who wants to be doing, like it just was wanting a break or something. I don't know. But anyway, so I'm going to welcome everybody um, to Akashic Record Insights. I'm excited to have you here. It's going to be good. I think it's going to be good, right? Like a little hump in the get along, and now we're good. So I'm going to open the records here, and I think I'll work with the the Hall of Ancient Wisdom, which is an aspect of the founders of the Akashic Records, which is like opening the records of the records, basically. So while I get the records open, you think about what you want to know, what you want to let go. Pretty much you can ask me anything. Occasionally they might shift your question a bit. So maybe the response isn't quite as personal as maybe you might have hoped. But anyway, we'll get that going. So here we go. My center with your center, our center with all centers, our center as the one center. I enter the realm of the masters, teachers, and loved ones of the Hall of Ancient Wisdom and match our hearts and minds with theirs. Let us find through joy and wisdom the ability. Let us find through joy and wisdom the ability to open the universe and ourselves to greater possibility and deeper love. Eternal Source, fill our hearts with clarity and sacred power, and show us the place of balance between us and the Hall of Ancient Wisdom. Hear us now as we become one with the whole, and when we are complete, release us in love and admiration, keeping our energy raised. All right, the records are open. So if you got a question, if you can type it into chat, that would be great. Oh, look, we've already got one. So the first question I'm going to answer through the records is, what are some positive motions that are coming up in 2025? So what are the positive motions that might lay ahead of us in 2025? So for a whole lot of people right now, it may not feel like there is much to be optimistic about. But what they want to say is that there is actually an awful lot. There is some tension that has been released and is moving us all in a direction that it's like the beginning of this started maybe about 5 to 10 years ago, more or less, for most of us. And it, it, it there was a lot of like laying a foundation, like preparing, um, preparing for the journey. Um, and the journey has begun, um, and so it's like this is going to be a year where a whole lot of us, like we get the fruits of our labor, so to speak. Um, there's going to be some big bumps. There's going to be some moments where, it feels like maybe, things are not going to be so great, right? Like things are going to shit, basically. um, but it's it's that overall we're moving into a new turn of the spiral. We're turning into a new level of the spiral where the view gives us the opportunity to consider things that we've never thought of before, that we've never contemplated being able to do, right? Like this is the year that, you know, you challenge yourself to go further than what you think you can, right? Like, in another way to think about it is that we've been spending time learning how to go into the deep waters. And now what we're doing is we've become comfortable with that process. And so what we're doing is um, like getting used to the fact that we can swim in deep water, getting used to the fact that, right, like there's not really a shark that's going to come and bite your feet off, that even though you're in that deep, you're in the depths. And so this is the year to say, to build a skyscraper and say, I can get to the top of that. I can do this, I can do that, right? And part of the way you get there is by learning to not get caught up in the fear and not get caught up in the, woe is me kind of energy. It's about directing, doing what you need to do to kind of direct yourself into a direction, into that curve of the spiral path that you're on, right? And I mean, in a certain sense, life is very much like a spiral path, right? Like you're always going out and coming back, kind of to the place where you began, but you're at a different level, you're in a different layer of it. And so something might seem familiar, but at the same time it's different because you've had all of that experience of the spiral. So there's also a point at which you get into the spiral where, you know, it's like you haven't quite gotten that your journey's on a spiral. So you're still trying to look at the path as if it's straight. And when you keep looking down what you think is the straight path, part of it is you miss the curve of the spiral, but part of it is that in believing that it's a straight path, that you miss the curve, right? Like, like that's where you can kind of get to like a bit of a detour, is that you get someplace and you can't go any further. And it's because, in a sense, you need to back up and make the curve. So that means that what keeps you the on the curve, so to speak, of the spiral path is what I call the up choice, which is the idea when you get to a crossroads, we tend to, in our linear minds, we tend to think that at the crossroads we can go right, left, or straight, right? And the up choice is the choice in that moment that you don't necessarily think about being able to take, right? Um, you think it's only left, right, or straight. And the up choice is looking in the unexpected direction, looking into the unknown and finding your opportunity there, seeing that that in that up choice is where you meet the um the challenge, right? It's where you take on the challenge. And all of the different metaphors of, like, say, the road less traveled, and all of that absolutely apply here, right? That's partly what keeps you, like, on the spiral, is to let go of the assumption that the path is straight, and more importantly, to let go of the assumption that you're going in the direction of, like, you're going in the direction that you expect, right? You're learning to move away from allowing expectations to drive you, and moving into a place of allowing um, the call of the curve, if you will, to be what guides you, right? So, in one sense, what that really does is it shifts your awareness of how you experience your journey. You go from this feeling like you've got to, like, go after it, run after it, make it happen, control it, understand it, all of that. Whereas what this is about, the spiral path, is about energy that moves towards you. And that, right, like, it's like how the calling moves towards you. It's how it rises up within you, and you feel the rightness of it, and you lean into it without chasing after it. So you're able to um, move with it all in a much stronger, um, more confident way, right? Because to be able to walk into the ability to journey in the unexpected and the unknown along a spiral path, where by definition you can't actually see exactly what's in front of you, is all about the joy, um, and um, and the ability that you have to trust yourself even when you aren't 100% sure. So the joy in 2025 really comes in the challenge that comes when you think of your path as going into the unknown. Yeah. Yeah. They're good on that one. Okay. Um yeah, so I'm going to skip the second question from Jacqueline, and go to Mike's question, because that is connected. Last time they talked about potential changes in the spiritual growth process. Could they provide more clarity on this? Um, yeah, so underlying everything that's going on in our lives right now is the idea that the agreements of what it means to be human is changing. And that that change is a shift from the dominance of the mind and the body over the heart and the soul, to the integration and in a sense, the unification of body, mind, heart, and soul. So that one of the things that means is that, like, things that we, like, state of, experiences or states of being that we have believed or we've been told, more importantly, that we need to die and go to heaven to experience. Well, we don't have to do that. We get to keep our physical bodies and have those cool, amazing spiritual experiences. Um, and and so the growth is coming in, first understanding how life can be different through that kind of integration, through that experience of body, mind, heart, and soul. And one of the ways that that happens is understanding the shift. So they're understanding the shift in the power dynamics that happens with this, right? So within the dominance of body and mind over heart and soul, the primary power dynamic that we all lived in was power over versus power under. So it's that idea of dominance and yielding as a way to as a way to basically interact with people. So that, and it was all based, that's in a lot of ways all based on the idea that whoever is dominant is the person who is charged and capable of keeping everybody else safe, right? Because within the dominance of the body and the mind over the heart and the soul, the primary motion in life is to survive. So whatever you have to do to survive is what you do, which is why people are willing to give up their personal power to someone else. Is that's the way they perceive that they're going to be able to keep, themselves and their families safe. And so within that, then personal growth is a very different kind of idea. It's much more something that's dictated to you. Like, you do this to be spiritual, you do this to be religious. If you do these things, then you're not a good person. If you do these things, you won't end up on the right hand of God. All of that kind of, right? Like all of that kind of thing that's about how your life has to be in order for you to be approved as being worthy of protection of whoever the power over motion is. So when humanity, as humanity moves into, and we're already doing this, and there's nothing you got to do for this one in order. It's more a matter of awareness. But as you move into this awareness of that your heart and your soul are joining with your body and your mind, and that integration is, like integration is able to express the depth of who you are, that claiming that claiming that sense of inner power, because that's what that is, means that the power dynamic shifts to what's called power with and power within. So power with is the ability to speak truth in public and to share that truth with others. Power within is to live from a sense of balance and integrity within you. And it uh, what happens, so in power, in the power with power within dynamic, instead of survival being the primary focus, then the focus is actually thrive. How can we thrive? Because within power with and power within, the primary, like, social point of interaction is this idea that we are all connected, and in that connection we're not asked to give up ourselves. Instead, especially from a spiritual point of view, what we're able to do is to look within ourselves, within our hearts, within our bodies, within our minds, within our souls, and find what works for us. Let's say from a spiritual perspective, like, where is growth for me in this moment? So that um, so that spiritual growth is really then motivated much more by a it's moving away from like a list of you do this, you do this, you do this kind of stuff, to you really stepping in and learning to trust that you can get to your truth within your inner process, right? So that personal truth is is not dictated by some outside authority. It is something that you come to within. And they think if you look around at what's going on in the world, there's a whole lot of that where people are trying to figure out if, is it okay for them to believe in themselves? Is it okay for them to maybe challenge um, some of the ideas that this has to be, like life spiritually particularly has to be done this way or that way in order for you to be considered a good person, right? Because part of the whole thing for the individual within power over and power under is um i- is the idea that the individual actually isn't inherently worthy and is only considered worthy if the individual does whatever it is whatever they're supposed to do to prove their worth. Whereas within power with and power within, um, an individual's worth is seen as intrinsic, right? There's nothing to prove. So that frees you up, like say on a personal spiritual growth basis, to kind of quit. Not that you can't go out and listen to what other people have to say, but you're not going out there for someone to tell you what your truth is. You're going out there to listen to how that helps, how whatever is said illuminates your truth within, right? Like just this event, Akashic Records Insights. It um, it I mean, there's a way in which you could look at it as me telling you what you're supposed to be doing, but that couldn't be further from the truth, because both me individually and the records and the way that I work with the records, this isn't about telling anyone what they should do, ought to do, must do to prove something. This is what is being shared in the moment for you to connect with your sense of inner truth. Where are you in the present moment? What is real for you in this moment? And how do you come to your sense of truth within that experience? So as we move forward, a lot of, and that's, part of it is that we're going to have to let go of some bad habits, like thinking that we know better than other people. Like we've been doing our work, so we now know better than other people. And they would like to, like us to disabuse ourselves of that one, because that's not really what's happening. What's happening is we're learning to trust ourselves, and then we're learning that we're not responsible for everybody. See, in power over, power under, part of the way that you can gain approval and be seen as worthy is because you basically are in service to people, right? So you give up what's important to you, you do for others before you do for yourself, as a way to prove that you're a worthy human being. Within power with and power within, that sense of service, if it's there, is greatly shifted in the sense that um, 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 it's greatly shifted in the sense that it's not about me doing something for somebody else to prove that I'm a good person. It's me knowing that I'm a good person and responding, responding to people when they ask for support, right? So I'm here to 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 give support. I'm here as a witness. I'm not here to tell somebody what their truth ought to be. Which can be a huge challenge, because when you work really hard on on yourself and working on your like say your spiritual path, you'd like to like it would be helpful in a lot of ways to feel that other people can benefit from what you say, what you believe. um and it's not that you can't share your heart and your truth with others, but just as you most likely are going to want to be able to get to your truth yourself, then the respect that you extend to others is believing that they are capable of getting to their truth themselves as well. So you don't take from somebody that which you value for yourself. Whew. Um, so I hope that answered the question there. Let's see. So the next question would be energetically, what are twin flames and soulmates? Um, so um, so the concepts of twin flames and soulmates are connected energetically. Um, I know, and this is me, Cheryl, saying this because that's what they want me to do. Um, is a twin flame is essentially the idea is that a soul is somehow like split before coming to Earth, and um, and so um, that your other half, in essence, can be found in whatever process, and in a sense completes you. It would be like sort of the primary way that I and they would talk about twin flames. So in other words, energetically, it's the idea about how someone can feel so connected to somebody that like it's almost like you're looking at a mirror reflection of you. um, and and so that um, they would say that there's absolutely can be that kind of experience, but there's more to it than that. So to kind of talk about twin flames a little more than what they would like to do is talk to also that idea of what a soulmate is, right? Which is this idea that th- there's a person who you connect on such a deep level, it's as if your souls are connected. And um, and kind of depending on like who you might hear this from, like part of it is like say maybe from a romantic sense, there's this idea that just like there's a twin flame is two people and only two people, soulmates are you know two people. um and um so what um so the way to get to this in a deeper way is to shift the conversation um front to the soul's point of view, right? So the idea is that every individual on earth is an expression of a single soul, and that each single soul is an expression of a unique aspect of whatever you want to call it, eternal source, God, the transcendent, whatever. And um, especially as we're moving into an environment where we're really deepening our experience physically and spiritually as human beings and moving into this integration between who we are physically and spiritually, right? And really unifying that experience within us of body, mind, heart, and soul. A lot of what's happening is that we're both deepening our experiences of ourselves and each other, and more and more allowing ourselves to be aware of the depth of that connection. And they would see that this idea of twin flames and soulmates is an expression of the depth of that experience, as opposed to, see, most of, like, this is a really good an example of a topic that for the most part has always been understood from a linear point of view, which is what I call the static view, meaning we're limiting our awareness to, like, linear time and space. And especially something like soulmates and twin flames is absolutely not limited like that. Um, and which means that it's not just like two people, like you're not just trying to find your better half or something. And, and until you do, you won't feel complete, or you won't experience deep love, or, whatever it is that we're told that goes with all of that experience. But if you look at it from the dynamic point of view and you understand the energetic things that are happening because of um, this integration of who we are physically and spiritually, what really is happening is that we are deepening our conscious awareness of our connection with others, right? So, partly they would say that essentially you don't just have one soulmate, you have many soulmates. Because if you go back to the origin of the soul doesn't happen in isolation. The the energy of the soul differentiates as I am amongst many, 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 many other souls, right? Like if you think of it as, like, if you think of the transcendent source as, the sun or a huge light bulb or something like that, right? You've got all of these rays of energy radiating out from that light source. And up close to the light source, it looks just like one big ball of light. But as all of that energy begins to move out and experience, the universe, the different parts of the light begin to differentiate as, like, we call them rays of light. And each of those rays is a soul. And that means that the soul, one of the things that starts with the journey of the soul is that ability to be entirely aware of your connection with all that is, right? Because everything is connected. And in that, I call it the energy of the emerging, right? You have the transcendent, the one source. And as those rays begin to differentiate, it's all of that soul energy is emerging. And there is conscious awareness. It's not the same kind of conscious awareness that we would experience like here on earth, but it's the kind of conscious awareness that, for example, in the way that I connect with the Akashic records, that's what we're connecting with, is that emerging energy that is differentiated itself. and and you can have a sense of I am and I am not. And so there's all of that infinite eternal experience and expression of I am not, that's not you, that you're connected with. So when you come to earth and you have the experience of meeting somebody who you just, it's like you've known before, it's because there's a soul level connection there. um we tend to think of it as past life connection. Sure, why not? Not a problem. We can look at it that way, but that's also its own limit, mainly because the experience of the earth from the infinite internals point of view, the dynamic point of view, essentially there's no linear time in that perspective. So what we think of as time means more or less that it's all happening at the same time, because there's no time. And so it's this awareness that's happening across uh, the infinite connection of all of it, which takes you essentially into the energy of non-locality, because that's probably the best linear way we have of describing this experience. But that sense of soulmate comes through who you are as a soul and how you have felt both across the experience of your soul infinitely and eternally, and how you feel connected in this moment through whatever awareness you have of yourself as a soul. So it's it it and that in and of itself, like, it's not something that's just about like a romantic relationship or a sacred relationship. Well, it actually is a sacred relationship, but it's not limited to, like, your search for a partner. It can include that, but it can be so many different people in your life, so that seeing soulmates like that opens the door to, incredible experience, right? And um they think that that's where the power of all of this is for all of us right now, is to, like, open the door and step through into the unknown, into the places we don't know. So instead of assuming that we know it all, say, well, it's like stepping into the moment and saying, what is my truth now? Because that's the path to the unknown. That's the way you get around the unexpected. um, and they think that the depth of understanding, especially the concept of soulmates, um, comes out of that ability to um, feel deeply within yourself and not limit yourself to, you know, what you've been told is true. Whew, boy, they showed up today, folks. Okay. All right, let's go to the next question. All right, so here's this is a great question. So you speak about being in the Akashic records and allowing all to come to you quickly, easily, and safely. Can you share more about how this flows to you versus trying to go to the unknown revelation? Um, okay, this is a great question. Um, so so this is how they want to answer this question. So especially if you're a highly productive person, the idea about how you get anything done is to, like, make your to-do list and then go out and get it done, right? And they're putting an emphasis on the go out and get it done. Um, and that means that often it means that you go out of yourself. um, you go out into the world, you go in search of whatever it is that you think you ought to be doing. And so energetically, it's about the energy, um, like, moving away from you is probably the best way to describe it. So you're, because often you're moving away from yourself because you don't believe what you need is within you. So you got to go out and find it. You got to go get it from someplace. You've got to put everything together so that you achieve whatever it is that you set out to achieve. And um, and that ends up being reinforced by a variety of things, mainly that the idea that you have to go out and prove your worth, right? It's what I call blind production, meaning um, you know what you've got to do, but you don't. It's blind because you don't know what you're supposed to do, and it's production because it's focused on doing something. Um, whereas when you realize that, like, if you think about it even from a scientific point of view, right? If we think of the third law of thermodynamics, which is for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. That means that when you grab after something, instead of the energy being about getting it to move toward you, what you've just done is you've created the energy that pushes it away from you. So within that idea, if you if you take a deep breath and you let go of your tension and you let go of your worry and your concern. I'm not saying you don't have to feel like you've solved it. You can just feel it kind of like out there on the back burner where it's not going to bother you in the moment. And that breath and that release brings you into this moment now. And in this moment now, you have an option. You can either run out there and push after and see if you're smart enough or fast enough or good enough or whatever enough to get it. You can go at it that way, right? That's how we're trained. That's the habit. But the alternative to that is allowing yourself to believe that on that breath in, you have like energetically influenced the motion of energy toward you, because energy wants to come to you. The universal energy, let's call it in this moment, wants to move towards you. It wants to bring toward you what you seek, what you're looking for. um and it does that for two reasons. One, because that's the natural flow of it, is to flow toward you. But the other part of it is that that flow towards you often helps you see that what you're trying to grab after you already have within you, right? Like either within, literally within you, or that you're able to get um like you're able to um see it within yourself, right? Like the answer is within, right? Like part of it is that idea that I am that which I seek. Um, and then it also means that the momentum is in the receipt and not in the grabbing after. So it means that you're stepping into the way the motion of that energy both like naturally wants to come toward you, And by stepping into that, it enhances the momentum of it moving toward you. So that's how we get to, like that affirmation, everything moves towards me quickly, easily, and safely. It's that belief that you don't have to run out and prove anything, do anything. It's that you're able to like navigate your life from um from within you in in and not feel like you've got to push ahead because that's the only way to counter the unknown. Because when you are with yourself and you are paying attention to what moves towards you quickly, easily, and safely, you're doing that without actually knowing exactly what may come of whatever choice or whatever decision um, somehow that you want to make. Um, yeah. So there's, it's why most people will go running out after everything is because that's the only way they know how to deal with the unknown and the unexpected. Part of the whole idea of the spiritual journey is that you're becoming more comfortable with the energy of allowing that, allowing yourself to trust yourself that what you need will come toward you. It might not be what you thought it was going to be, which is the whole nother topic, but it's getting comfortable with that. And knowing that when you do that, you step into the power of like aligning yourself with the unknown of the infinite and the eternal, which has infinitely more potential and possibility than you always having to figure it all out. The harder part of doing that is that when you go out and make your to-do lists and go running after it, you think you can see like 20 steps ahead, 10 steps ahead. But when you shift into, I trust that everything I need moves towards me quickly, easily, and safely, you are, you're trusting yourself, but you are also stepping into the depth of possibility for your life because you're not limiting yourself to what you know. You've opened the door to include everything you don't know and probably can't know. Yeah. Let me catch up here in chat. Um, right. So the comment is therefore the space to hold for this type of receiving like this is neutrality as opposed to um, the effort of a high vibe. Yeah. um, see, if we're driven by we have to prove our worth, then part of what drives us is to figure out what to do to prove our worth. So one of the things that's happened over, like, let's say the last 50 years is this idea that one of the ways to prove your worth is to be high vibration. And That's a static perspective vibration. And especially the way we deal with it, because we deal with it as a standard of value, a standard of worth, um, which, within power dynamics is an illusion. And it's basically only there to make you participate in the rat race of proving your worth. So, because in a certain sense, I want to be high vibration is just I don't know, a made up story. The records are like, we're not sure exactly what it is, but it's silly because it's pointless ultimately. Because it usually will take you out, it takes you out of your sense of power, your sense of integrity, your sense of truth, and places you in a place where you're judging yourself and probably others, based on simply this idea of I'm high vibration or I'm low vibration, right? Like there's all the things that you can do or not do that prove you're high vibration, yada, 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 yada. And that now you're down. I mean, like that's a dead end road. Um, and it's why the records really like to reinforce the whole idea about resonance as an English word to try to explain what, like, say, if high vibration conversations are, a static view limited by the concepts of linear space and time, then resonance would be the dynamic view, right? Like that would be the experience of the um the infinite and the eternal, right? Which is really what that is, then, is that we're we're trying, partly what we're doing is we're transcending the limits of what we have traditionally defined as rational, or let's say intellectual, and we're bringing in, like, for example, what we have tended to call intuition, which, has often been demeaned as, you know not worth anything because it's not rational, right? Because, and it's really that it's not rational if what you're trying to do is limit any explanation to a linear perspective explanation. If you understand it from a dynamic point of view, it makes total sense, right? Like the whole conversation about soulmates is something that's about intuitive awareness. It's about that deep sense of resonance that you can have with another person. And that has nothing to do with rationality in the way that it is described from a linear point of view, right? Like it has to be, like, say, scientifically provable, let's say. That's what makes it rational. That's what makes it, acceptable, right? And the whole conversation of high vibration is basically stuck in that demand that it be rational. Um, Whereas if you step out of that and really lean into your ability to be aware of the unknown, which is essentially what the records would define as being, having, like, say, mystic perception, mystic awareness, is that you're trusting yourself to receive from the edge of what's known and unknown and often unknowable, right? Like, how do we know? How do we learn what we don't know? We learn it by trusting ourselves to receive from that indescribable place, wherever the heck it is, whatever the heck it is. You are allowing yourself to feel the motion of it and to feel guided by the light of that recognition within you, without having to feel like you have to prove it in some way that cannot be unbroken by anybody else. But that's the whole thing about personal truth is what you prove to yourself, right? Like what feels right to you. And there's no reason to get into the place of saying, well, this is my truth because it feels high vibration. That's still judgment. That's still using a standard of judgment that's limited both by um, the linear perspective of things, and for the most part, is wrapped up in the um, the the dynamics of power over that wants to make sure that the last thing you ever feel is your own personal power, your own personal truth. So of course there's all these things out there on a both a religious and a spiritual perspective that are about maintaining that perspective of power, as opposed to the the ability to trust yourself to get to your truth, which is essentially what intuition is doing. And trust yourself that that awareness, wherever it comes from, however irrational it might seem, is what's motivating you in any moment to live your life. So that's what they have to say about that today. All right. So would you relate all of that to how to approach searching for a new house, please? Um, um, so let's just so what they want to do basically, because they think they want to know, but so that we kind of make this make sense across the whole event here, is the question that they hear you asking in that is how can I use the idea of everything moves towards me quickly, easily, and safely to help me find a house? Um, and uh, okay, cool, we got it. So um, okay. They just first of all they just told me that this is actually a process that um, they've just finished helping me put in the new book that I'm working on called Soul Compass, which is about how to navigate your life with inner truth and vision. Um, so so part of it is that part of this is the idea that the idea of everything moves towards you quickly, easily, and safely is essentially the idea of what I would call soul calling. The soul calling is your ability to hear your truth. So the way you would apply all of this to finding, searching for a new house is first you start within yourself about what you're looking for. Like what are you called to? What calls you? What kind of house calls you? Is there a location? Is there, like you want land, you don't want land, you want it to be a penthouse, you want it to be, whatever it is. Um, and probably in that, you're going to make a list. Um, and it would be really good to, like, maybe on that list have, like, say, 3 columns. The things that you absolutely want, like, would be pretty much would be deal breakers if they, if they weren't a part of the new house. Then the second column is, the stuff that would be really good to have, but aren't the deal breakers that the first column would be. And then the third column is sort of like like the crazy things that you would think might never ever happen kind of thing. Um, but what happens in doing this is you end up with an idea energetically of what you want. And they're going to emphasize the idea of energetically what you want, as opposed to you just created a picture and now you're going to take that picture and you're going to go and look at houses, and you'll look at the house, you'll look at a potential house and you'll look at your picture and you'll say, oh no, that's not the house, right? So what you're doing there is you're making a comparison, like just say like within the physical world. um, which they know you wouldn't do, but they're trying to make a point here is that the calling, what you feel there, what you sense there, whatever little details are there are to help you find it and aren't necessarily exactly what you will get to, right? It's what helps the journey begin. So that the next thing you do is you start taking care of essentially the bumps or what I call the paradoxes along the way, right? Like whatever shows up that seems to be against you getting your soul calling. Um, and like when that's, like when you're searching for a house, that can be things like, like I don't think I'm worthy of having what I want. I don't think I have the money for what I want. I don't think, like whatever all of those obstacles are, they start popping up, or, people don't, family and friends don't want you to move. So certain things happen and you have to decide, are you going to take, how are you going to take care of that? If it does this mean that you don't move, right? Like there's just all these different things that will come because you've decided. So initially in this, then you deal with whatever big obstacles might show up, whatever paradox might show up. And then you ask yourself, how do I put my calling into action? Like what essentially that's the creating the vision, right? So you're not, maybe it's I'm just going to build the house. Oh, okay. Well, then that takes you down the road. Like, how do you find the land? Are you going to build it yourself? Are you going to hire someone to build it? Right? Like it takes you now down that process of creating and answering the vision that's connected to the original calling. And that process can bring up new calling. That process can bring up more paradox. That process can bring up so many frustrations and anger and disappointment and all of this that you start thinking, well, this can't happen and that can't happen. But really what's happening is it's little refinements of your vision. It's little refinements of it, right? And so that at some point what happens, and for a whole lot of people this doesn't happen in the time frame that they really wanted it to happen in, they stumble over their house. And that's how you find a house. So in the process then, instead of feeling like you're trying to go after your vision and making it happen, or you're trying to go after somehow of getting that sense of your calling or even of the paradoxes or obstacles, what you're doing is you can energetically feel it in your body or sense it, which is that the whole process, it's like you're just here and you take a step and something moves towards you, and take a step and something moves towards you, right? Like you take a step and you meet a new realtor, you take a step, you see another house, you take a step, that realtor turns your direction from city A to city B, and city B isn't anything you ever thought of, but then that realtor takes you out and there's the house, right? Like it's just staying with yourself in this moment, right? Like that's one of the ideas about everything moves towards me quickly and easily is it keeps you in present moment awareness. It keeps you mindful of where you're at in this moment in terms of your calling and your vision. And having personally just gone through exactly this process to find a house, it's hard because you pretty much only see one, maybe two steps ahead. And every moment, every time you take a step, every time you're aware of this moment, you you have to trust, you have to believe that you're going to get to what you want. Because this isn't a process. You can't get what you want unless that's part of your paradox. But it's believing that the way that it works out is the way that it's meant to happen. Yeah. I hope that's helpful. And I think whoever asked the question, yeah, okay, I know who asked the question. It's going to happen. You're not that far away. It's going to happen. Just don't give up. Don't give up. All right. Well, we've gone about an hour, which is what I thought we would do today. I want to thank everybody. So I'm going to close the record. So in love and light, I thank the masters, teachers, and loved ones for their love, their attention, and their presence. Amen, amen, amen. The records are closed. All right, sweet people. I hope you have a great rest of your Sunday. I think most everybody here is somewhere in North America. So I hope you guys have a great rest of your Sunday. The next Akashic Records Insight is this coming Friday at noon Eastern time and it's going to be on my Zoom. In Zoom. So you need to go to my website, akashicrecordinsights.com or cherylmarlene.com and find a place to register. Yeah. So I will see you all soon. Thank you so much. Loved the questions today. Thank you. All right. Talk to you all later. Bye-bye. Oh, push that button. There we go.